You are watching and listening to Chris and Leicester Till I Die TV on YouTube and your favourite podcasts.
Are you ready? I'm saying, are you ready?
Watch us on YouTube. Listen on your favourite podcast platform. Or ask your smart speaker to play the podcast Leicester Till I Die.
Right, Chris.
All right. Good evening, good day, good morning, good afternoon, good night, goodbye. Hello. Welcome along, wherever you are in the world, to LTID TV from Leicester Till I Die. Thank you for joining us, whether you are watching on YouTube and Twitch or listening to us via your favourite podcast platform. You are all welcome. If you're listening on Twitch or on YouTube, please join in with the conversation in the comments. Love to get your thoughts. And as I say, if you listen on your podcast, thank you very much. Now then, you know, I think we are putting the fear of God into opposition teams. So much so that the opposition fans are actually scared to come on Leicester City channels. You may remember a few weeks ago, and I may be doing the guy an injustice. He's never replied back to me. So, I mean, I don't know. He may well have passed away. But we didn't get the Watford fan come on. Had a problem with Norwich for years. They just never seem to turn up. Well, we should have had a Birmingham fan with us tonight. And he should have been coming on from, well, it says below. I can't even remember where he was coming from. I would have asked him, but he's not here. I think it was, I'll tell you. We'll name and shame them, shall we? At Blue Focus Pod. I don't know what they're focusing on, but they're not focusing on keeping their agreements because they're not turned up. And the funny thing is that I am supposed to be going on theirs at 9 o'clock. I think I might have an early night tonight. Would that be churlish of me? Don't give a shit. Look, all the shows are all over the place for the next few weeks. It's Christmas. Do that. Subscribe, like, and do all your business. And then click the notification bell and you will never, ever miss a show, whatever time we have it on. Well, ladies, you're going to have a real good choice tonight because you've got the two handsome ones of the, and I can say, yeah, that's better, mate. Just move your wig about a little bit. That really does help. But this is the preview show, and it's a little matter. I think Rooney versus Vardy. Blue Rinse Brigade dream tonight, Craig.
It is indeed, mate. It is indeed. People who pay a lot of good money to not have to watch us.
Exactly. And you can make donations via leicestertillidie.com if you so wish. All right, you know, like I said, I jest, but I mean, I think a lot of teams, maybe a lot of fans, are running a little bit scared. And I think I would be if I, you know, played at a stadium called the St Andrews Trillion Trophy Stadium. When I think if they've got, well, I can't remember the last trophy they won, to be honest with you.
So even Spurs turned that suggestion down.
Yeah. Probably quite right. Yeah, Trillion Trophy Stadium. I mean, I mean, that's so American. I don't know how long it's had that name. I would have asked them if they'd bothered to turn up, but why it's called that, I don't know. But one thing I think we do know, though, Craig, is why it's on TV on Monday night.
I know. It annoyed me at the time that they moved it. I can understand, but it annoyed me because, all this rubbish about, it's all about football. Football's the most important thing. Oh, hang on a minute. Rooney versus Vardy, we're having some of that. Yeah.
It has not been about the fans for years, and all this shit after COVID about we've missed the fans. Bollocks, you missed the money. That's what it was, because as soon as you could, you shafted the fans left, right, and centre. I'm sorry, I'm being a bit blunt there, but I honestly think it's true. They don't care about the fans. All right, it's a Monday night. Thankfully it's only Birmingham. So I suppose if we're going to play one game on Monday night, then better it be Birmingham than Sunderland away. But still, we know that it's not. We know that it's not for footballing reasons, don't we?
No, it's not. They want to milk it for all it's worth, don't it? I mean, I don't think Vardy will play at all, which is going to ruin the whole thing. So, let's not jump into that too early, Chris, I guess.
Well, no, funny you should say that. Highfields, good evening, welcome along. He says Vardy's injured anyway for Birmingham. Is that confirmed?
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. No. I've not heard anything more. I mean, he was still injured before last night's game. I can't imagine that he's made a sudden recovery. So as much as I would love him to be able to score and then run to the away dugout and do his name across his back, I don't think it's going to happen, sadly.
Yeah, I mean, all these social media sites cashing in on it. I don't understand. I don't understand why.
I have no idea.
Do that at all. If I'm honest with you. All right, there's a little bit of the conspiracy theorist in me. I mean, I didn't think he was actually injured. I just thought he'd maybe twinge something a little bit. Maybe it's just the fact that he's sort of 75 now, that a twinge takes sort of, a month to recover from. Stubbed your toe, can't play for a month.
Yeah.
Highfield Fox has said, yes, it's confirmed Kelechi is fit, though. But I can say the conspiracy theorist in me thinks, is he really injured?
Yeah. Or are they just taking him out the firing line so we can concentrate on football?
Yes.
And basically ruin Sky's whole planned evening.
Yes.
It's worth it just for that.
I'd love Leicester if they came out and they said that's what they'd done. And they just, or if he was fit and they said, yeah, he's fit, we're just not playing him tonight. That would be funny. But I can imagine that the crowd are going to have a load of fun because they will be shouting about Vardy. Yeah, I'm sure our fans will be going on about the age of the prostitutes that Rooney likes to go to.
Yes.
There might be a game of football breakout in the middle of it all.
Yeah. Rebecca Vardy, she's too young for you. Yeah. I can hear it all now.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Actually, the guy is just coming. So sorry, I was a little bit distracted there. So I'm going to come back to that because my next point, and I will clip that because that's going to get clipped. You singing. It was going to be about their manager, but we will come back to that.
Yeah,
we will come back to that. We'll talk about the bit that doesn't really affect them, because they're not in the top 7. But it's true. I'm not saying anything that's not true. Look, we're top again. My God, I was a bit. I got 3 points on the board at 3-1. I thought, I'm in here.
What a shame.
Yes, I'm sure you feel it. I'm sure because I was having a good week up until then. But look, I mean, how do you feel? Would you sooner be 12 points ahead at this point? And obviously, there's an advantage with that. Or would you sooner be as it is here, where it's 1-2 points and it's keeping us on our toes? Because my worry is if we're 12 points ahead, a bit like Newcastle and Man United that season, you know, you think you lose one, you think, oh, you know what, you know, we've still got 9 points clear. You know, what's to worry about? Where now, obviously, and Sam's just arrived. We'll bring him in a second. I'd sooner it be like this because it keeps us on our toes.
I'd be much more worried if Brendan was in charge.
Well, I think
about
we
having any kind of lead.
Yes.
To be honest.
And let's be honest with you. If Brendan was in charge, we wouldn't have a lead.
Wouldn't have the lead. I know.
No, don't be silly.
So, to be honest, yeah, I'd much rather have it as it is because you are going to get injuries, you are going to get suspensions, you are going to have a dodgy game. Excuse me, you are going to have a dodgy game here and there.
Yes.
When you've got that lead, that gap, and let's not even worry about Ipswich. I know people were saying, "Oh, Ipswich have gone back top." It doesn't matter. You know, it's the gap to third that's the important thing. So I'd much rather have that. You know, we can slip up for 3 games and still be ahead. So
yes.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. You know that you've got to fight for every point because you're in a proper scrap. But no, I'll take this. Thanks.
Yeah, yes. I mean, like you say, the gap going up is the important thing.
Yeah.
Financially and for the club and for the players that we could lose. Going up as champions is a bonus. The only thing that we get is if we go up as champions, then we're actually beating Manchester City. Because we'll have more championships than
and we'll
they
probably
have.
hold that forever because they're not coming back down anytime soon, are they? So
unless the FA suddenly get a rush of blood to the head and decide to dock them, you know, a couple of leagues. But
hang on a minute. I did. It's funny you should say that because I did get a letter. If ever discussing Manchester City, please make sure you make the statement they have done nothing wrong. There. Love that.
Just for the lawyers. Thank you very much. You know. Now apparently he thought it was 7:30. Let's hope his team turn up half an hour late Monday night, and we can put a couple of goals in before they turn up. But welcome him in, Sam. Better late than never. Nice to see you, mate.
Yeah, nice to see you both.
Nice,
Apologies about the time. I had a bit of a mail with it, but here now. And
we just thought you were running scared, to be honest with you.
Well, to be honest, I mean, you guys best start to a championship season out of any team after 20 games. So yeah, you guys are smashing it at the moment, aren't you?
Well, it's but the thing is, and as I say to every opposition fan, and Craig will back me up here, that you know it's very hard not to come across as smug or conceited. But we were so down and miserable last season that if we'd been in 4th or 5th, I think we'd have felt like this. So it's just a great position to be in.
Yeah, and I mean, sort of for you guys as well to sort of like drop back down to the championship. I mean, you've done so well, sort of like 10 years ago, getting out of the championship. Then when you came up as champions, and it looks like you guys are probably going to get the crown again. But it is Ipswich that are 1 point behind. So you two are doing like both so well. So it's one of the things where, like, if it was kind of any other season, you guys would be like flying sort of at the top with no one really in sight. But then Ipswich just a point behind. It's still kind of competitive at the top, but I do fully expect you two to both go up.
What are your thoughts on Ipswich then, Craig? Because, like, I mean, I didn't have them. I had them mid-table, you know, having got promotion. But they are, at the moment, I don't think they've had a couple of games where they struggled, so they may have had their sort of bad patch. But they are doing well. Will they keep it up, or do you think they will fall off and let Ipswich let Leeds in?
Well, first of all, hi Sam, good to see you on here.
Nice to see you.
And obviously it's a season of change for you guys, but at least you're not having to suffer with Villa having a great. Oh no, you are. Yeah. Anyway,
they literally just scored in Europe as I was going to talk to you guys as well, and I was like, oh god.
Moving on, Ipswich.
Yeah, Craig, that's not like you. Where's this nasty Craig come from?
It's not nasty. It's light-hearted banter.
That's what it is. Yeah.
We got enough of that banter, obviously, with the appointment of our new manager, which we'll get onto, I'm sure.
Yeah. Ipswich. I mean, fair play to them, to be honest, and the number of times that they go behind in games and manage to pull out
the goals that they need, and they're getting the wins. It's funny though, if you look at them, you look at the highlights. I saw a bit of the highlights of the game the other night where they won 2-1. They could have easily lost that game. They do give up a lot of chances, Ipswich, but they are scoring at the minute. And fair play to them. Can they keep it going? Maybe. You would think that they're going to have a blip at some time. They had a little blip when they had 2 back-to-back draws against, I think, Rotherham and some other sort of. Was it with you guys? Did you get a point off them?
Yeah. So we went 2-0 in that game, and then they kind of just brought it back with the players they had off the bench, and we couldn't really put in that 90-minute performance to keep up with them guys because they play with like such intensity. And I think that's the same with Leicester in the fact that both the teams just controlled the play so well, and I think that's why both of you guys are sort of flying up the top of the league.
Yeah, so I think they've got every chance of hanging on if they can keep their better players fit and that mentality. It's when they hit the blocks and have 2 or 3 results go against them, whether they can do it. But fair play to the guy. He's got a way of playing and it's working for them at the minute. And as I say, it doesn't really matter if us and Ipswich run away. For me, it's the gap to third. Yes, we'd love to win the title, but promotion's what it's about.
And as long as we keep Leeds not in the top 2, that's even happy. But I suppose from a neutral's point of view, it adds excitement to it. I mean, obviously, you've got an interest in the whole division, Sam. But I suppose I mean, do you look at it? We got this, and I write a piece for the BBC every Tuesday, and I wrote the bit that a lot of fans when we came down were saying like, oh, they're going to be the Manchester City of the Premier League, and PSG, part 3 or whatever. But when you look at what we spent, it's actually less than we've brought in because we let a lot of players go that are on high wages. We sold our 2 best players at the time for 80-odd million. We certainly haven't spent £80 million in bringing people in. Do you still see Leicester as? Because I mean, we've only got obviously the money that we got. I don't think we get the do we, Craig? We'll get the parachute payment until next season if we stay down. Because
I thought you got it this year.
Well, don't we get what we got for finishing 18th?
I'm not sure. I thought you got a parachute payment to maintain the wage structure.
It's in like 3 installments, I think, sort of as you come down from the Premier League. So it's like for 3 seasons when you come down.
But how do you view Leicester this season, Sam?
Obviously, you guys have still got quality players. Players that could play in the Premier League. You look at some of the players that you've kept hold of. The likes of Ndidi in the middle, obviously Vardy up front scored loads of goals in the Premier League. Ricardo Ferreira, those guys that have featured for you sort of in big European tournaments. Obviously, you've still got quality on the pitch, and as you rightly said, Leicester have sort of sold more than they've got more in. And to compare Leicester to like Man City or PSG, I don't think that's necessarily right because of the fact that these guys spend so much money. But whereas with Leicester, obviously you guys can spend the money because you've sold players. So it's like one of the things where it's not just you're like the richest team in the league by a mile, spending all this money. Because if you look at the likes of Leeds and Southampton that have come down, they've still got quality players as well. But for Leicester, it's just clicking that bit better than it is for Leeds and Southampton. I think that's because of the whole thing you've got going. The manager Enzo Maresca, I think, has done fantastic. A great young coach. Where sort of when he came into the club, there was a bit of is it going to work out? Is it not? Because of the way that he spent at Parma when it was a kind of similar situation where he dropped down to Serie B, was supposedly the best team in that league, and it didn't quite pan out for him. But having that season at Man City, where he's assistant to Guardiola, he would have learnt so much, and that's translating now to the Leicester team.
It is. I've got to ask you this because we'd had a giggle. I'm sorry, we did have a giggle at your expense, but you weren't in. But when did they rename the St Andrews Trillion Trophy Stadium? I hope you really got that many. I mean, that's a little bit like, well, a bit embarrassing, is it not?
So that was down to the old regime. I think it is back to St Andrews now because the old regime's gone. But the old sort of like investment company that took us over were called Trillion Trophy Asia. So that's why they named St Andrews the St Andrews Trillion Trophy Stadium to sort of go with their whole sponsor thing. But yeah, we haven't got a trillion trophies in the cabinet. So
that would have been up there with the Walker's Bowl, wouldn't it, Craig?
Yeah, it would have been. But even that is less embarrassing than... Trillion Trophy.
I think you're right. If it has changed, and I've taken that off our website, LCFC.com. So They obviously haven't updated it themselves yet. We were again. The other thing we were laughing at was that we know why it's Monday night. We know why it's on telly. It's Rooney versus Vardy with no lawyers. But it looks like Vardy's going to be injured and not playing anyway.
I bet the Sky guys are like, damn it. we don't get to speak about that for half an hour before the game.
No, exactly. Although, if he's injured, do you think he'll travel, Craig?
Oh, Vardy?
Yeah.
No. Because I don't think they'll want the circus. If he's not there, then there is no. So there'll be some, obviously, but nothing like what Sky would like. And I think it's great that it all falls down around their ears, to be honest. It should be about football, and clearly they've not gone down that route. But I bet their lawyers are digging up anything in the background to see if there's any scandal between any other players of the two clubs going on. Ricardo Pereira was seen out in Birmingham the other night or something.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like you say, even if he wasn't playing and we sat on the bench, the camera would be forever on him.
Yeah.
And of course, you'd have the crowd. We've said before, we'd have all the home fans going on about Vardy's missus, and all the away fans going on about Rooney's old age pensioner lady friends.
I hope in the past the club have given the away fans free drinks, travel, scarves, hats, or whatever. I'd love them to give away Vardy face masks to every fan, every away fan that's travelling. So it's just a sea of Vardy.
What have you? Somebody upset you today, or what, Craig?
I just think it'd be funny.
We got the Vardy mask.
Yeah,
he's not normally like this. I apologise. He's normally like a gentle old granddad.
It's all banter. Honestly, we've had enough of it this season, so kind of used to it by this point.
Yeah. Look, we can't not talk about him, even though we're not going to be talking about the boxing match there. Your thoughts on bringing him in as a manager, and because you weren't particularly doing bad, were you? Well, I know you weren't, because I've got the next slide coming up. What happened? Why did you sack your last manager? Was it just to make room for a name?
I think there's a lot of factors that come into consideration with the appointment of Rooney. When John Eustace was in charge, he done a fantastic job for us, because last season we were in a position where we were tipped to go down relegation favourites because of the whole thing with our owners. They're not willing to put money in, so we had to operate with free transfers, loan signing, just sort of getting what we can. And we finished 17th last season, which doesn't sound fantastic, but it actually was our best finish in 7 seasons, as bad as that sounds. But Eustace made the most of what he had, and now he got a bit more backing in the summer transfer window. People thought, okay, we can kick on from here. But we're in 6th place, look pretty good going into the October international break, just beat West Brom at home 3-1. There was a real good feel factor around the club, and then they decided to make this change. And we were all a bit like, right, what's happening here then? Because you've got a manager that's doing well, and then all of a sudden the big names come in. And Birmingham fans have seen this before, with Gary Rowett, who done so well in 2016, being replaced by Gianfranco Zola. And look how that turned out, where Harry Redknapp had to come in and save us on the final 3 games of the season. So, it's not been a great appointment so far. We did win last night 1-0 against Cardiff City, the first away win of Rooney's tenure. And that, I suppose, has cheered the fans up a little bit, but there is still a lot of scepticism about the appointment of Rooney. And Gary Cook has good links with Rooney beforehand, because he used to be CEO of Man City, Gary Cook, and apparently he's got connections with Rooney and other business ventures. So I don't know if that had something to do with the appointment of Rooney sort of being a good friend of Gary Cook, someone that can sort of front the new project at Birmingham, a recognisable face to, not just football fans, but sports fans. He is a recognisable face, and I suppose that's the approach they've took with getting Tom Brady on board as well as like chairman of the advisory board. So they really want to make sort of the atmosphere around the club, with people that have been there, done it in all different types of sports. So I can see what approach they're going for, but it's not quite clicking on the pitch yet.
No, Craig, you're a lover of American quarterbacks on the pitch, aren't you? I don't know if that's what Tom Brady was.
Yeah, he was.
We went down that road a little bit with Sven-Goran Eriksson, didn't we?
We did, yeah. I can imagine, that obviously bringing Tom Brady in, as you said, and they're trying to broaden the markets. And I can just imagine some American TV show where they say, we're now going to go over to the face of Birmingham City, and everybody's expecting this 6'5" chiseled hunk of an American football player, and they cut to Wayne Rooney eating a pie. I'm not sure it's going to pan out the way they hoped, to be fair. But I mean, it's you clearly they've at least got a plan. You've got people in there, you've got winners behind the scenes. That can go one or two ways, can't it? Because that depends on how patient they are as well. Are you going to be a club that chops and changes every 6 months if they're not seeing some progress? But it's a tricky one with Rooney because it didn't really work out before, did it? Where it was at Derby, wasn't he? I think for a bit. Yeah. I don't know. He's like one of these. We, as you say, we tried it with Sven. It worked up to a point, but these sort of showbiz appointments, you sometimes question their reasons for being there. I mean, Sven was there, I think, purely for the money, but
apparently, while Sven, I mean, the names do attract I suppose the bigger players, the better players. I mean, for us, we were attracting them at the wrong end of the career. But apparently, and somebody was saying that on the Beckham transfer, on the Beckham Netflix show, whatever it was, that he was actually very, very close to coming to Leicester and Sven. That would have been a story.
That would have been a story. That would have been a coup. That would have been someone else for Rebecca Vardy to have a go at if they were there at the same time. But Rooney. I mean, Rooney's not. I'm sure he's been very well paid for his troubles or whatever. To bring him back over from the States, but I'm sure he's there for the right reasons. That he wants to make a name for himself, as a football manager as well as a player. So I'm sure. He's played under enough good managers. He's played with enough good players. The thing is, how many great players become great managers, particularly in this country?
Can I just say to you, Craig, and I'll throw this back to Sam as well. Are you worried that you've got a Frank Lampard or a Steven Gerrard?
It's a good question because it seems as if a lot of these managers have come from that golden generation. The managers that have sort of come from players and then been under like Sven-Göran Eriksson, Fabio Capello, those kind of guys, where sort of at England it didn't quite click for us. And I think there's varying levels of success with this because you see, say for instance, in the Championship, you've got Michael Carrick. He was also part of that sort of team of the golden generation where he's gone into management and fared a little bit better because Middlesbrough were in the playoffs last season. I know they're not doing fantastic this season, but I think with Rooney, as you said, Craig, he's coming with the right intentions and he signed a 3.5-year deal. He's got the sort of tag of being manager, not head coach. And I think in today's game, that actually says a lot in the fact that the board and the club want him to be involved sort of with the Birmingham project going forward if things do go well. So I think there is sort of a good setup around the place. In the assistant coaches, you've got Ashley Cole, who's won Champions Leagues, won Premier Leagues, and John O'Shea, the exact same thing. So they're trying to sort of create this culture, as I said, about, winning mentality. We're not going to take any BS anymore. If you're not good enough, then there's the door kind of thing. And I think the board are saying all the right things and it's all going well around the club, but it's just on the pitch that we've really got to sort of get the philosophy down to a T and really have this no nonsense approach, because I feel like a lot of fans, the sort of mentality of them is like, right, okay, if we finish mid-table, that's kind of a fine thing because of how we've done in the past. But these owners are really ambitious, and I don't doubt their ambition one bit. But I think it's one of the things where the fans are thinking, right, it's going to take a bit of time to get up to where they want to go, and it's not going to happen overnight. And I think with the way that Rooney was trying to play at first, with this whole, pressing from the front, let's score loads of goals, no fear football, as the board called it, you can't quite do that with the players we've got at the moment. And I feel like if we do that next Monday against Leicester, there could be a lot of goals in the game and not for us. So
I think it'll be so. I think it'll be really interesting. I think the January transfer window will tell you a lot about the mentality behind the scenes as to whether Birmingham go after names or people that fit, players that fit the system that Rooney wants. And obviously, the latter is what you really need. Have an identity of how you want to play, and then find the players that will fit that system, and build from there. The same way the likes of Ipswich have done it. Us in the past, when we were successful, Nigel Pearson did exactly that. We didn't have big names, or they weren't names at the time. They were brought in to fulfill a role within the club. So I would think if you are bringing in players who are not necessarily big names, that's a good sign in January. Whereas if you're bringing big names who are looking for a payday, that's probably not so good.
But I was just going to add on that the CEO has actually said about the January transfer window, and said that we need to believe in the current crop of players we've got, which is a little bit worrying because of the fact that results aren't necessarily going our way. But it's one of the things where they have actually put quite a bit of money into the team in terms of tying down players to permanent transfers, and not these free agents that are sort of towards the twilight years of their career, or loan signings where they're going to go back to their parent clubs in the next season. So I do like the words that are coming out of the CEO's mouth, but whether it all sort of comes to practicality, that's what the Birmingham fans are a bit worried about at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, for Craig, for us, we've not gone down the big name route this season, have we? All right, we've got Winks and we've got Cody, but they weren't.
Yeah, I think Winks and Cody were big names in terms of where they'd been and the levels that they'd played at, but they weren't playing and they weren't pulling up trees. They weren't actually. I mean, Winks wasn't actually playing, and Cody couldn't get a deal at Everton, so it wasn't like they were, at the peak. And I think they've been brought in for character rather than personality. Although footballing personality, they've got it. They're winners. I think it's the character and what they can bring to the team, which is why they're at the club, not just because of the levels they'd played at previously.
But players that we've brought in, the Mavridis, all right, we've bought him. Fatou, we've got him on loan. Hopefully, we'll buy him. Unknowns, really. Yeah. But we've just managed to do what Leicester seem to do very well, and that is, go do well in the transfer market.
Again, I think we've every club will have blips, that transfers that don't work out, but we have, by and large, tried to buy players that fit the system, the way that we want to play, 2 players that are hungry, and 3 players that will be an investment and that we can improve and then sell on, to keep that model going. We had a blip where it didn't work and we had some financial troubles that all sort of melted us down last season. But I think overall, if you look over the last 10, 15 years, the model that we've pursued has been a successful one. And it looks like we're getting back to that, of identifying good, young, hungry players.
Yeah. I mean, Sam, I've got to say, in fairness to Rooney, he's gone down the track. When he was at Derby, in fairness, he kept them up and they'd been deducted points. So he'd done that. All right, it didn't work out for him. Was it DC United, I think he went to? But he's come to a club, and no disrespect to Birmingham, mid-table at best, as you said, 17th was your best for many seasons last season. And he's taken that on where, he's not gone for an Everton or a Palace or somebody like that. He is kind of prepared to learn his trade.
And I think the Championship's an excellent division for that, isn't it? Because of how relentless it is with the fixture list. You come up against all different types of teams, whether it be, teams like yourselves where you have the ball, or teams where you have to sort of deal with a big target man or counter attacks or whatever. So it's all about adaptability in the Championship. And for young coaches, it's a fantastic division to work in for that reason. And I think Rooney's kind of a manager that's learning on the job a little bit and learning his players as well. And I feel like that really sort of came to fruition on Wednesday, because of the fact that we grinded out a 1-0 win against Cardiff, and we did look like the better side, I thought. I mean, it was a bit of a scrappy game, but I feel like Rooney's actually starting to learn what his players can and can't do now, because the first game that we had under Rooney against Middlesbrough, it was a 1-0 defeat, but 1-0 was actually a pretty generous scoreline, because throughout the game, there was just so much space around the pitch, and I thought, oh my God, what have we turned into? But we kind of went back to basics a bit yesterday with a kind of 4-2-3-1 formation, with Ivan Sunic coming back into the side. He'd been dropped for a while, and he came back in, and I thought he was excellent last night. And players that Rooney perhaps dropped before, that realised, okay, you can actually offer something to the team if I play you in a certain position. So I think with the sort of way that we're operating at the moment, it's kind of going back to basics, and Rooney's learning on the job. And it's all about now getting the points and the results to get on the board and get away from that drop zone, because I think that's what a lot of Birmingham fans are a bit worried about, because we've had our history with relegation battles in the past, and we do not want that this season.
Before I come on to the chart above there with the red line down the middle, which I'm sure you can guess what that is,
Yes.
just to throw back at you, Craig, what Sam just said. Do you think we're getting the best out of Enzo because his first? That's all right. He had 12 matches at Parma, but you can forget that, really. It wasn't successful. But his first, if you like, what should be long-term management job, he's not been thrown at the deep end in the Premier League, and he can, and success, or winning games breeds success and happiness. Is it good for us that Enzo's got that season in the Championship?
I think it is, and I think we. Particularly last season, the board got a lot of stick, for sticking with Brendan. When a lot of fans wanted him gone 18 months ago, a lot of stick about the finances of the club. But it was a brave appointment, I would say. Yes, you could say, okay, this guy's worked with Pep. He's only been there a year. Let's face it. He was only with Pep for a season. We could have gone down a tried and trusted route let's go for someone who's got that experience of getting teams promoted. There was a couple in the frame who had done that, but the club were prepared to give someone a chance and say this may take 2 or 3 seasons. So I think it was a brave appointment. It was a forward-thinking appointment, and the board have to be applauded for doing it. And as it stands at the minute, they're being rewarded for that foresight in taking a chance on someone that they'd seen who had potential. And I think the fact that he got the players playing this way so quickly is a testament to him as a manager, not only a tactician, but also a man manager, that he's managed to get these players to buy into it so quickly.
Yeah, certainly wasn't in my top 2 as a choice. It certainly came left. Well, it wasn't even in my consideration. To think that 6 days before he signed a contract with us, he was holding the Champions League trophy above his head was a bit surreal. Look, Sam, that's your season so far. Last season, like I say, 17th. You know what that red line is, don't you?
Well, we're all too familiar with that.
Yeah. No, but the red line going down the middle, that's obviously when Rooney came in. And as you said there, if you look at one side compared to the other, one of them is rather a lot better, isn't it?
I think it's one of the things where obviously the Birmingham fans have gone into a bit of catastrophe mode in the last few weeks. And I mean, rightly so, because of the decline that we've had and the fact that I think prior to the Cardiff game, Rooney picked up the least amount of points in the Championship compared to any other Premier League manager in that time frame. So it's major cause for concern. We did get a win last night, which has boosted the confidence, I think, of the players a little bit, because they trust him now a little bit more with what he's trying to do, and also with the fans as well, because it's a clean sheet, and that's something that was a bit hard to come by in the early days of Rooney. And obviously Leicester's going to be a massive task next Monday, but I feel like the Birmingham fans are a bit more optimistic, a smidge more optimistic about the game next Monday because of what they've seen yesterday. And it's one of the things where, because we won yesterday, I do actually expect a little bit of a bigger gate because of it as well. Because I think it's one of the things where if you're winning games as a team, more fans will come to it and go, right, okay, we'll give them a chance. So I think that's kind of opened up that section of the fan base that had shut themselves off a bit like myself, really, where I going into the game yesterday, I was a bit like, oh God, watching Birmingham again, because we'd lost 8 away games on the spin. And I was a bit like, I don't really want to watch this because I know what's going to happen. And then the unexpected things happens and we win. I mean, first time we beat Cardiff away from home since 2008. So it's one of the things where typical Birmingham surprise you when you least expect it. And Monday's one of them games where, again, nobody really expects us to get anything, but the nature of us, you never know.
Yeah. Well, talk me through this, Craig. We'll do Leicester first of all. I don't know if you can see that at all. We'll get the old goggles out. That's basically, obviously we're on the right because we were away. Our recent form, our last 5 games, and based on the last 5 games, we are actually first. We're back up to top in the form table. No red on the side. Nice to see again. Sheffield Wednesday was disappointing. And last night was kind of like, oh my God, what's going to happen in the 6 minutes of injury time? But overall, those last 6 games, it's been looking good for us.
Yeah, I remember us sitting doing the preview with for West Brom, and the form. They were the form team at the time, and our side of that graphic wasn't looking so great, to be honest. But I think this is the encouraging thing, that when we've had little drop-offs or little blips, for whatever reason, whether it's a poor performance, whether we've just been unlucky and not converting chances, last-minute goal for Sheffield Wednesday, which was avoidable. That's those little bits where we overplay. But I think we're learning from that, because last night I assume you watched it, Chris.
I may well have done.
Yeah, that last 6 minutes when they managed to get a goal and there was still 4 minutes to go, there was less trying to play out from the back in those 4 minutes than there was against Sheffield Wednesday, which tells me that we're learning. That the ball in the opposition half in injury time when you're only 1 goal up isn't a bad ball, and we were prepared to do that a little bit. It did look really scrappy. But you're protecting the points, and I think that was important. So we've learned from the games where we've dropped points, and although it was 3-2 last night, it was a pretty comfortable 3-2.
That second half for me last night, Craig, was probably some of the best football I've seen this. I actually said it was probably the best 45 I've seen from us this season.
Yeah, and it was good listening to Maresca coming out afterwards, and he was being questioned about what did you do at half time, what did you say, and the fact that he'd recognised what had happened. He'd set his teams up to play against a 4-4-2 that they had been playing for the last 5 games since he'd come in, and also a little insight into how much in depth he goes. That he was watching. I think it was it Chelsea's under-21s or something, wherever the manager had been, he was watching their under-21 games to see how he likes to set his teams up. And then they come out and play 2 banks of 5. And it's like, okay, my plan's out the window. He said to his backroom staff after 2 minutes, this isn't going to plan. We've got this wrong. And he said, unfortunately, that he's only 5 months into his tenure at the minute. That means he has to wait until half time to make changes, because he can't pull people over and just have a chat and say, right, you need to be here or there.
Yeah.
But he did it at half time, moved Ricardo further forward, put 6 up against their middle 5, and we looked like we could just run away with the game for the first sort of 15 minutes of the second half.
All I will say, Sam, is keep your eyes covered for the first 15 minutes of the second half, because the last 2 games we've blitzed, and it's good that we've scored 12, we've only conceded 4. On your side, though, Sam, you've scored 5, you've conceded 7. It's not looking as good on your side, is it? You've got a couple of wins there, in fairness. And you've got to say, although, we couldn't beat Sheffield Wednesday, so maybe we shouldn't take that as that was an easy win. But should you not be beating teams like Rotherham?
The Rotherham game, we were lucky to get a point in that one, to be honest, because we had one, Sanderson cleared one off the line from them. They had a header from 4 yards out, which hit the bar. We did actually get away with that one, getting a point in it. So I feel like in terms of the last 5 games, I was at the Sheffield Wednesday game, come from behind, which shows a good bit of character, but it's one of the ones where you do expect to beat the bottom of the league. And the other games as well, you have your game against Blackburn where we lost 4-2, where we were 3-0 down and then got 2 quick goals to get back into the game. Fantastic moments from Stricky Dembele. So I feel like in the last 5 games, it's one of the things where there's been individual performances that have been good, but I'm yet to see a great team performance. You know what I mean? And I feel like there was glimmers of it against Cardiff last night, in the fact that, we saw out the game, restricted them to not many chances. But I feel like from those last 5 games, what I want to see for the Leicester game is a real good team performance where everybody's on the same level, thinking in the same way, because I still feel like there's times where there's 11 players on the pitch playing under Rooney, and it's almost like it's 11 separate people that have all got different instructions that are not working together because they don't fully understand the style yet of the team and the way that Rooney wants them to play. So that's what I'm really looking for us to sort of be coherent and all be on the same page.
Does Rooney, the thing I think we learned last night is that we finally discovered that Enzo does actually have a plan B, which we've often, questioned this season. Does Rooney have a plan B?
I don't know if it's a plan A, to be honest, at the moment. It's one of the things where in the last in the 10, 11 games Rooney's been in charge, we've used, 3 or 4 different formations. So I still feel like he's trying to find that thing that does work for him. So in terms of having a plan B, yeah, he's still working on the plan A.
Let me stick with you, Sam, and I'll ask the same question to you in a second, Craig. What's going to be your style of play tomorrow? How are you going to not tomorrow, sorry, Monday. How are you going to play?
This question would have been easier to answer prior to the Cardiff game because we did switch it up a bit, go back to basics. But I do feel like the Leicester game, because I imagine there'll be sort of higher ups watching that game with us playing top of the league. They'll want to see a performance where we go after Leicester, not one of them ones where we kind of sit back and try and sort of hit you guys on the counter. I think they'll try and sort of take the game to you guys a bit in terms of, creating chances in the final third, registering a lot of shots, which is much easier said than done. But I just feel like they're going to try and make a bit of an effort to get the crowd up, to get them excited, because if we concede an early goal, I think that's curtains because we don't come from behind many times to win games. So I feel like they're going to try and be forward-thinking, proactive. But again, it's that thing with, do we have the personnel to do it? And it's all about confidence as well.
And Craig, how is Enzo going to approach this one?
I think it'll be exactly the same. He'll look to dominate possession, be patient, but then speed the play up when we get into the final third, when we try and pull players out of position and then exploit the space that's created. It'll be interesting to see whether, this is a great game for Rooney, I think, in terms of learning. Has he got a different mentality within the way that he wants to play this? Because you go with a no fear football and you could get, really, really hammered, so, it'll be interesting to see whether he's got a pragmatic side to him that just says, let's look, the teams that we've struggled against, Chef Wednesday, we couldn't really break down. Millwall, we couldn't really break down. It was tough. It takes time. Are the ones who have just said, okay, have the ball, do what you want with it in your own half, have as many passes as you want. But we're not going to give you the space to go out. We're not going to come and engage with you. We'll try and hit you on the break. So it's whether Rooney has got that in his locker in terms of that's how he can set a team up. But secondly, do the Birmingham players have the discipline to do that as well? And that's the other thing, because it's very easy. I felt really sorry for the Millwall striker last night because he was just running around in between the two defenders, the two centre halves, chasing the ball like
going side to side.
Yeah, exactly, like some little dog, just chasing a ball or a stick that's been thrown between two people.
Don't feel sorry for Millwall. They're the dirtiest team we've played this season.
I tell you what, I saw
players on
after the game of Daka, his legs being sort of cut up, and I was like, "Whoa, that is rough."
Yeah, actually, and sadly enough, that guy Honeyman who put that first tackle in, he should have got a booking.
Definitely
was the only player in my ACCA who didn't get booked. So I was a little annoyed about that.
Craig very nicely led me on to my next question. Vardy, it looks like it's not going to happen. We're not going to have this, a rematch, so to speak. As much as I'm doing my best, I'm probably more disappointed than Sky are, having ages doing artwork. But Kelechi could be back. Not scored in 6 before he was injured, Kelechi. Daka 2 in 2 and got an assist as well. And I know it's early days and he's only just come back for 2, but we were writing him off. Who do you start with?
Daka starts, it's nice that Maresca has come out and said, sort of reiterated that the fact that if you're in possession of the shirt and you're playing well, you will keep your place. He's not always stuck to that because I remember
he hasn't.
You know, Casey McAteer, I think, scored 2 in one game and then found himself on the bench when he was rotating it. But his reasoning there is that they're young players who need to be rotated. I think that Daka showed enough in the last couple of games that he deserves the start. And even I would put Iheanacho behind Cannon as starting as well.
Wow.
Because I think that little bit of extra pace, if you've got a team who are at home, who are going to have to come on, you know, the crowd are not going to, as much as Rooney might want them to sit back, as much as the players might want to sit back, it's very difficult for a home crowd to watch their team sit back and allow an away team to dominate possession. So if you've got the pace of a Daka or the pace of Cannon running in behind, I think that'll be a lot more damaging than a striker like Iheanacho who comes to the ball, which allows the back four to push up. So I think Daka will keep his place.
I was looking at Daka's heat map, not from this game, but from the last game. And basically, like Vardy and Iheanacho, all the strikers, he was playing very deep. But what he seems to have, which Vardy doesn't at the moment quite as much, and Kel's never really had, is the speed, is that he can come deep, which obviously is something that Enzo wants him to do. But suddenly when there is a break on, my God, it's like, we've got Mo Farah playing down the centre. He has got that, hasn't he, in his locker?
He has. He's very direct. I think that's it. I think he knows that he's more dangerous in the box, and as you see there, he's, very central as well. Rarely gets pulled out wide. Is prepared to put a shift in, but he wants to be heading towards the opposition goal and getting himself in. I mean, it was probably the easiest goal he'll ever score against Millwall the other night. But the old adage is you have to be there.
As indeed did Yannick.
Yeah, you have to. You see plenty of strikers who don't make those runs because they think, oh, there's no way that ball's coming in, so I'll just sit and watch it. It was a fantastic cross from Ndidi, and he was there. So I like the fact that the fact that he's been sort of an outcast for so long, going away and scoring goals with Zambia, but coming back, still not getting a game, and then he finally gets his chance. He gets his two starts. 2 goals. He's not a player who's been sulking. He looks like a player who wants to take his opportunity, and he's playing with a smile on his face. And you need to nurture that.
Yeah, that Sam was the heat map against Millwall last night. A lot of red from the Leicester team, none from Millwall. So I don't know whether that worries you or not. But I wanted to ask you what players are going to trouble Leicester. And Scott's asked the question here as well. Do you have some quick players, wingers, forwards, or do you have a strong target man?
I think in response to that question, we do have quick players and we do have a target man. But whether they're going to start in the same 11, I'm not too sure, because on the wings, we've got Sriki Dembele, who's full of tricks, full of pace. Was in the championship team of the midweek. So he's someone that has definitely sort of come into form. Also, Koji Miyoshi, he can cause a bit of trouble, lots of pace, and also Jay Stansfield, which has sort of played a bit deeper, but now seems to find himself being the number 9. And in terms of a target man, we've got Lukas Jukovic, who is your bread and butter player in terms of holding the ball up, being physical in the air. And he's one of them players that, he'd be a big influence in the dressing room. One you can sort of bring on with about 10, 15 minutes left to try and change a game. So I'd say we do have both, but I don't think they'll be in the same starting 11.
So who's going to be the main threats for Birmingham again? Who have we got to look out for? Write these down, Craig. Write these down and pass them along.
Send them to Maresca.
Yeah.
I'd say in terms of up front, our main threat is Jay Stansfield. He's one of the players that he's on loan from Fulham this season. Half the championship were after him, and he decided to come to us. I don't know if he's regretting that decision, but I feel like he may be. But he's a phenomenal player in terms of just running his socks off and being creative when there's not much on, because there's been a few times in the Rooney era where the ball's been played up to Stansfield. He's got absolutely nothing to feed off, and he's had to, feed off scraps kind of thing, and he's created something out of nothing. So with the right service, Stansfield could be a phenomenal striker, and I think he's going to go on and do fantastic things. So I say Stansfield's a big threat for us. Dembele on the wings on his day, fantastic. Miyoshi, great player as well. And I think it's one of the things where sort of the fullbacks at the moment, they're still getting to grips with the new Rooney system, because we've got Lee Buchanan on the left, who I think has been a fantastic fullback for us this season, does the basics really well, can get up and down. And then on the right, we have got a bit of injury problems at the moment with Cody Drame out and Ethan Laird. And Emmanuel Iwu stepped in to play right back last night against Cardiff. And he's one of them players that has impressed me so far. He's come on loan from Cremonense with a loan to buy option for £3 million. So clearly they tout him as a good player. And he's one of them players that I feel, does the basics well. Because he's a centre back, not naturally a right back, he struggles a bit with the getting forward, and he missed a sitter last night. But I still feel like he's a good player with a lot to give. And in the middle, we've got Christian Bielik, who on statistics won man of the match last night. And he's one of them players that without injuries in his career, I feel like he'd be a Premier League player already. So he's one of them players to look out for. So yeah, we've got good individuals. Just want to see us click as a team now.
Craig, injuries. 7 of them out injured on that changed it all. What's the saying? That escalated quickly, because I think it was only the week before he said, nobody's injured apart from Callum Doyle. Inacho, like he says here, could be back. Harry Souttar was out with illness. Didn't even know he was ill, to be honest with you. But he is a contender to come back. Eunice Atgun, Casey McAteer, Mark Albrighton and Callum Doyle are all not likely to. But Callum Doyle is at least training again. But I think now we know who the strongest team is, who his preferred starting lineup is going to be. And I got asked this question a few weeks ago on an opposition show, and I'm sorry if you're going to ask me this when I come on yours later, Sam. But I struggle. It's really said, like, who do we have to watch? It's like, well, anybody in a Leicester shirt, basically, because Vardy and Iheanacho weren't scoring, but the wingers were popping them in for fun.
Yeah, I think there'll only be one change from the team that started against Millwall. I think James Justin will start, and Cody will drop to the bench. So it's more of the standard back four that becomes a back three. And I think, I think the wingers are on fire at the minute. Fatawu has had 2 great games. He level dropped a little bit in the second half against Millwall yesterday, but to be fair, he got his fullback subbed at half time, so he had a new one to come and try and kick him. And he did take a couple of, heavy whacks, and obviously he should have had the penalty.
He should. Well, that was.
Yeah,
let me ask you this. I've got to ask you this.
No is the answer.
You don't know what I'm going to ask you now.
I bet the letters VAR are involved in this question.
Yeah, they are actually. Yes, You know me too well. But everyone was going mad from the TV. I mean, you were there. Obviously, I was sort of watching on the TV, and the camera you couldn't tell because the camera was filming them from behind. You couldn't see. So I'm prepared to say to the referee, if he can't see, he can't give it. It's as simple as that. My problem was with the lino, assistant linesman, whatever you want to call them. He was there. Yeah. He was in. That was his side. He was in line. Yeah. What the hell was he doing? Would you sooner? And I know if we go back up, we're going to have VAR. We can't get away from it. I would sooner have what happened last night than having to wait maybe 6 minutes for them to decide and put the lines in and do a coloured diagram of a dinosaur attacking someone. I'd sooner that, because somebody actually said, God, I miss VAR. And I'm like, seriously?
I think it's an easier answer, when you've won the game. If that was a 0-0 or we'd lost the game, and we should have had a nailed-on penalty, then it might be slightly different. But I would hope I would give the same answer. And football is a lot better without VAR.
Oh God! We can celebrate. I mean, when we scored against West Brom in the 94th minute to win the game, there was none of this like, was he onside? Wasn't he? What they're going to find out? Did it sort of touch the nail on his little finger on his left hand or something? It was like you could just go mad and celebrate it. If you don't see the flag go up, it's a goal.
Yeah, I mean it was a penalty, but from where we were, I mean. It was funny because Scott said it's either a penalty or a goal kick. So he gave a corner.
Yeah, no, they're not the best referee that we had last night.
But you know, even when you saw it from behind the goal, his feet were so quick and he only just nicked it in front of him. It's very difficult to give that at full speed, to be honest. And we can all look back at it and say that should have been a penalty. But as you say, unless you're sure, you can't give it. So, you know, we're going to get a few of those. And they're going to go against us. But...
You know, he probably had a couple of players between him. It was the linesman that that should have been giving it, because that's his job. You wait till you get promoted again, Sam. Bloody VAR. We are not miss. But we've got a Burnley fan, haven't we? That comes on the channel quite a bit. Dan from Turf Moorhouse TV, and obviously they came down last season and then went back up. And he said, "You know what? It's proper football, and you don't have bloody VAR." And he's so true, so true. Right, it's that time. You can see it on there. Craig and me dropping down the prediction league quicker than bride's underwear on a wedding night. So I'll come to you first, Sam. Your score prediction, how do you see it going?
It's an interesting one. I think, as Craig said, it's going to be a massive learning curve for Rooney, this game. And I feel like it's one of them ones where, you know, it all depends on the fans as well, like whether they really do get behind the team and build this atmosphere where they try and make it a bit hard for Leicester to play. Because obviously, I don't doubt you guys on the pitch for 1 second, but it's just the external factors that need to sort of fall into place to make it a bit harder for Leicester to do their thing. So I do expect Leicester to win. I'm going to say 2-1 though. So I'm hoping that we make a bit of a game out of it. Really make you guys work for the points. I'm seeing Leicester winning the game, but I'm hoping that we do, you know, put up a bit of a fight with it and really sort of act on this way that we're trying to play football. So trying to make it tough for you by getting on the front foot, pressing from the front, having a real go at you guys, and hopefully, scoring a goal. So I'm going to say 2-1 Leicester.
We've only conceded more than one goal once all season. That was last night. But I just want to take you up on a point. You said that it's a learning curve for Rooney. But out of the two managers, he's the more experienced one. Yeah.
I suppose with Maresca, obviously, he's got better players to work with. So for him, it's like a little bit easier in that respect. I mean, I'm saying that for Rooney being a bigger learning curve because of the fact that he's been at the club for less time than Maresca has as well. You know, Maresca's had a bit more time to work with the players, learn about the players. So that's why I say it about being a learning curve for him, and, you know, for what players can really play under these sort of demands and play sort of to this schedule as well, because, you know, the Christmas period is so relentless. There's going to be a lot of rotation because of injuries that are picked up, players not being 100%. So in terms of him learning his squad, this is going to be massive. Yeah.
Craig, I'm going to let you go first so I can copy yours, and then you don't get any further ahead of me in the prediction league. No, I have written mine down here, actually. What are you going to go for, Craig?
Well, I think the biggest danger to Leicester is the first 10, 15 minutes, because we've been sloppy in the last few games. You know, we conceded against Millwall. We should have conceded a couple against Sheff Wednesday. Because we didn't come out of the blocks. You know, we try and play our football, you know, and keep possession and pass the ball around just outside our own box when you know the opposition are going to come at you, you know, early on. So if we get past that, I'm going to go for a not comfortable, but a solid 2-0 to Leicester.
2-0 to Leicester. Right. Well, I am going to go, because even when we go behind, which we haven't done often this season, if we go behind early on, I don't worry, because I think we can come back. You know, when we went behind under Brendan Rodgers, I might as well just go home now, even if it was in the 3rd minute. So that's the end of the game. We'll go home. Thank you very much. But it's like, and I keep saying this so often, and I've probably said this to you already, Craig, it's like watching Liverpool, you know, in the 70s and 80s, is that they never panicked. You know, they would wait for the opening. And, you know, you can see, even if, you know, last night when Vestergaard was holding on to the ball, and quite often he'll I mean, you used to say that you used to annoy you that Johnny Evans stood on the ball and didn't move it. Yannick Vestergaard must be driving you absolutely mad, because he'll stand on the ball and sometimes not move, but suddenly he'll produce an amazing shot through. But I think I've been going for a lot of 2-1s this season, haven't I? So I'm going to surprise Craig and not go for a 2-1. And I'm a bit worried because I am on Sam's channel later, and he may not welcome me back. But I'm going to go. I think we'll concede because we always seem to. And maybe we need to give the players a pizza. So I'm going to go. It's 1 to Birmingham, but I'm actually going 4 to Leicester.
Ooh.
I'm sorry, Sam.
That's a tough one.
That's harsh.
But see, when I look at if we go back to the form guide, you've in the last 5 you've scored 5, but you've conceded 7.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was decent, to be honest, because that's not even 1.5 a game. That's not that bad. You don't want to be conceding over 1 a game, but it's not like you're getting hammered by anybody. And I've seen
got hammered by Blackburn, didn't they? All right, they got 2 goals.
4 of those goals came in that game. So
exactly. So the rest of the games, I can see you having a decent second half of the season. To be honest, I think Rooney will pull it round. I don't think you're going to be playoffs, but I don't think you're going to be flirting with relegation, and I think he'll do a decent job overall.
I don't think Birmingham will go down, and I don't think, like you said, think they'll be in a relegation battle. But and no disrespect to Birmingham, but these are games that you look at and you think, yep, these are games we should be winning. But then again, we thought that was Sheffield Wednesday, and look what happened. We have a habit of shooting ourselves in the foot. I just want to quickly go through a few ones here. A foot in both camp. Now, I could have gone for so many here. But
there's a lot of players that played for both. A lot.
Yeah, there are. And Gary Rowett, who played and managed, played us, managed you. There was a load when I looked, but I've got to go for and this is just for Brad because it's Brad's favourite as well. Muzzy, is it? I mean, he stayed with us, didn't he, Craig, when we got relegated? I don't know if you've read his autobiography or not. It makes interesting reading. Your memories of Muzzy? We had him on the show not so long ago, didn't we? Yeah,
I mean, Muzzy was great, and I've said it a long time. I don't think we've had an attacking midfielder to his standards since he left the club. A midfielder who was happy to make runs in behind strikers. It's almost like a lost art of that deep lying runner coming through and happy to break the line. You don't see many of them, but Muzzy was great at it. Yeah. And I had the pleasure of playing a game with him in a charity game.
Was this when you scored from the halfway line at the King Power?
No, that wasn't me. That was sadly that was someone I worked with who is still banging on about that. And that goal gets further and further away every time. But I did score a header from a Muzzy Is It corner.
Wow.
So that'll be my claim to it. But it was interesting because he was talking you through the game on the pitch and what you thought, you would want a player to do. You were always taught to, wingers, show them down the line. And he was like, no, show him inside. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, that's where we're overloading. So you just show them into the trouble, where they're going to get pickpocketed. No, he was a great player, played with a smile. And a player, one of those players, a gem that we picked up out of nowhere from Everton, Chelsea's reserves.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah,
and was a great player for him. And obviously, you also had his compatriot, or not compatriot, Turkey, but his midfield partner Savage for a bit as well, didn't you? Yeah.
No, we don't talk about Sav. No, I like Sav. I like a bit of Sav. You can't. I don't know how old you are, Sam. So I'm not going to presume whether you remember Muzzy Is It or not. We're old buggers. We're like the two guys. We're like the two guys off the Muppet Show. Me and Craig. Do you remember Muzzy? I mean, all I can say is he doesn't look very happy there, does he, Craig? In his
no. I think his better years were at Leicester, weren't they? Because I know that he was signed when we were sort of in the Premier League when Steve Bruce was manager. I don't know if Robbie Savage was still at the club when Muzzy Is It joined Birmingham as well, because of the way that Savage left. I mean, I don't know if you guys know about how he left Birmingham, but when he refused to train, handed a transfer request through the manager's office door without actually going up to him, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if they were sort of signed to work together as they did at Leicester, but in terms of Muzzy, is it? I mean, I look at that kit and I think we may have been relegated that season. So I don't know if he would have been a pivotal player in that kind of season. But yeah, that was around about the sort of mid-2000s when Birmingham were a decent outfit. And I remember actually a Birmingham Leicester game sort of, when I look into the archives a bit of when we played you guys, we were actually kind of pushing for the top 4 in the Premier League. And you guys were on a bit of a bad run of form. And there was something that happened in Spain where players were, there was something about this, you know, was it La Manga or something?
Oh,
Yeah,
I can't believe you brought. You invite people onto your show, and it's like inviting somebody into your home and they piss up the wall, didn't it? I mean, that's
you guys won the game though. You guys won the game. It
was bringing La Manga up. That's what did it.
Yeah, you guys won the game, so it's just such typical Blues that we were in that position where we could have gone into the top 4. Yeah. And then you guys beat us after all that stuff. So they're like, well, of course.
To be honest with you, though, with the La Manga, it could have been one of 2 occasions. We like causing trouble at La Manga. But yeah, also want to ask, and somebody did ask earlier, but I'll ask this bit first. If you know, and some people do, some people don't, what the parking and away fan pubs are like.
Parking can be a bit of a nightmare, to be honest, around the grounds. That's one of the things that I think the new regime are actively trying to fix, you know, making it a better fan experience for fans that are travelling to the game and also home fans as well. So I'd say for parking, get there well in advance. Away pubs, there's plenty of places you can go around the place. You know, some great fan pubs you can sort of go to, interact with home fans as well. Because it's one of the things where people say Birmingham Leicester, it's a bit of a derby, but it's one of the things where, like, obviously both being in the Midlands, Monday night game, I'm sure there's going to be, you know, plenty of fans around the place. So I'm sure it'll be one of the things where once the 90 minutes is up, it'll all be good afterwards. So very much looking forward to the game, and it'll be a good experience to sort of go there.
Bad history or anything, have we? And I don't think of Birmingham. I'm sure you don't think of Leicester. You've obviously got Aston Villa. You know, that's your big rival. We've got Coventry. But I mean, you know, some people would have Forest and Derby, but so yeah, it's still a Derby match because we're in the Midlands, Ronald. But Lordell has asked, what's it like getting back to Moore Street from Bearsley? Is it Bearsley or Bawdsley after the game?
Oh, I'm not the best person to answer that, to be honest.
I mean, it means nothing to me. I know Moore Street's at the bus station, but I've never heard about Bawdsley at all.
That may be a question for Twitter, honestly.
Yeah, I think Mr. Google might be the one that you go to now. Now, I'm not saying that Craig is a bit of a creep at all, but we always do a from the vault match, and he's gone for one that I don't remember, and it's possibly because of the score. But I don't think whether you probably weren't even a
6-2.
Yes, I know.
Wow.
Craig, what are you doing to me?
Actually, I think I do know about this game because this semester at my university, I'd done a project where I'd done a podcast about the life and legacy of Trevor Francis. And this was one of his finest moments. Honestly, this game, absolutely fantastic. He was, you know, it was him, it was Kenny Burns up front. Back then, we had a phenomenal team. And this is one of those games that you look back on, it's celebrated amongst all Birmingham fans. Was it on New Year's Day? Or was close to New Year. So a couple
of mistakes there you may have noticed. I was rushing. We played it on the 112th of December.
Yeah, that
we should have been the 12th. And Francis
4th of December, I've got it down. But it was, I mean, the game wouldn't have been played now because of the surface. You know, it was,
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was icy surface. And but as I mentioned to you when I suggested this game, Chris, Trevor Francis just skated his way through it. You know, I think he was a young player at the time and had sort of burst onto the scene as this precocious teenager. And and I watched the goals back earlier today, and we were pretty shocking, to be honest. It looked like we didn't want to be there at all. We weren't going in for many challenges. And then the ball's been put into the box, and you've got, you know, the Hulk of Kenny Burns sort of charging at you. And I don't think we made many challenges on him, to be honest. But it's worth seeing just for the half volley that Francis scored. from just outside the box. He just hit it so sweet. It was past Wallington before he knew it. And also one of the great headed own goals as well from Dennis Rofe. Well worth a watch.
We will come back to own goals in a minute.
I just wanted to add something as well.
Yeah.
You see there, Frank Worthington, player that played for both of our teams. And, you know, one of them players that you watch sort of like old footage of goals and that, obviously the famous one where he flicked over his head and scored. Like, he's one of the players that you look back from that era and go, yeah, way ahead of his time.
Liverpool's loss was our game.
It was indeed.
I had to put Worthington up there because he's one of my all-time favourite players. And RIP to Trevor Francis as well, who passed away, I think, early this year. A great player, all rivalry aside. I loved him as a player, and I didn't think he was a half bad manager. To be honest with you, when he was at Sheffield Wednesday. Kenny Burns, I've got to say, my only memory of Kenny Burns is the gents' toilets. I don't know whether we should go there or not, but I think we went down. We were playing Tranmere in the League Cup at Wembley, and we'd stopped, all the Leicester fans had stopped at some service stations, and I can't remember what it was. It was 1999. And I was having a wee in the toilet, and there's not many places you can look, is there? And you're sort of looking around. And the guy stood next to me, and the next urinal was Kenny Burns. Wow. And I thought, do I ask him a question here or don't I? And I did, but I think to my chagrin, I should have maybe kept quiet. But look, I couldn't let Craig get away with that. And as much as I like having other fans on, Sam, you weren't going to get away with a 6-2. I'm sorry. I was not going to allow that to be there. So I picked a game that was from the vault as well. But mine was the other way. Talking of own goals, Craig, the own goal specialist for Leicester, but put it in the right end for this one. And this one was the FA Cup third round in 1999. We beat you 4-2. Cotty, Guppy, Rob Ullathorne, my God. And Trevor Sinclair, who, I could say, scored more goals for the away teams than he did for Leicester, Craig.
Yeah, he scored some beauties as well. I think one at Arsenal, lives in the memory. He was talking recently about his time at Leicester. Yeah. How he kind of enjoyed it, and he came, like an old-fashioned view of football. He came to actually play football. He could have seen his contract out at Chelsea and just been a bit part player, but he wanted to actually play football. So he came to us, and solid.
He was one of those players we got at that end of his career that actually put an effort in for us.
I was going to say exactly that. He wanted to play football, and he did score a few own goals, but he played
3 in 5 games. I think he was at one season, wasn't it?
Yeah, he wasn't great, and but yeah, no, I'm happy. I'm happy to have a 4-2 instead of the 2-6.
Yes, yeah. Do you remember that game, Sam?
I can tell you who was manager then, Trevor Francis. He was manager of us then in 1999. Yeah, he was one of them ones where he got to the playoffs so many times with us, but just lost out on the semi-final. And it was 3 years in a row, and this would have been one of the seasons where we were in the playoffs, would have lost in the semi-final. I believe we lost to Watford this year in the playoff semi-final. And it's one of the ones where you just wanted it so badly for him just to win something or get promoted because of the legacy that he'd left at the club as a player. So it was a manager, as you say, he was a good manager, getting us into the playoffs all them times, but just never quite got over the line. And when Steve Bruce was manager, it was all with Trevor Francis players. So it just needed that extra bit of know-how to get us over the line.
Sorry, I can't help but laugh when you say those words all in a sentence. Steve Bruce and manager. It always, always makes me laugh.
We had him for a while.
Yeah. And I've got to say, Sam, winning playoffs isn't for everybody. Anyway, on that note, Sam, thanks very much. I don't know if are you on the podcast later?
Yes, I'll be speaking to you later on the podcast. We kind of just do like a preview thing similar to this. So looking forward to it.
I am sure the knives will be swapped out of Sam back into mine when we get to that. Sam, I did put Adam in the description below, so I will go and change that because I think it was originally going to be Adam, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But just give everybody a shout out as where they can find you.
So we're on Blues Focus, doing kind of more videos than ever really at the moment, because we're coming off the back of the Football Content Awards, where we won Best Content Creators for the Football League, which is a phenomenal achievement for everyone involved in the club. Thank you. Yeah. And we're sort of really proud of that. So we're trying to sort of get on top of things with the videos. We've started doing live watch-alongs to the games as well, with Tommy watching them. And also we've had a bit of a hiatus from the podcast at the moment, but we will be returning soon to cover all the fixtures over the Christmas period, so be sure to look out for that.
They've got a trophy, Craig. We better be careful.
I know. They've only got like 2.999999 trillion to go, and then you can name the stadium again.
I don't know what you've had today, Craig.
Anything about the old regime?
Somebody's upset Craig today at work. I'll tell you. Sam, I will see you in half an hour, mate. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, guys. Pleasure to chat to both of you.
Cheers,
Sam. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
mate. Bye-bye.
See ya.
And thank you, Craig. Where can people follow you?
Yeah, just follow me on Twitter at Craig Bird. That's it.
Yes. Yeah. Brilliant. Do that. He knows his stuff, does our wise old owl. And I will. Yes, indeed. And yeah, you got a weekend off. You can go shopping with the wife.
Okay, thanks for that.
That went down well, but good luck with your quiz that you were trying to put together.
Yes, mate, yeah. I'll go straight off to try and finish that.
Yeah, thanks very much, mate. All the best.
Cheers, Chris. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Okay, let's just have a look what people have been saying here. Right. I regularly tune into rival teams' previews and always good banter, but found this a bit insulting and unfriendly. Is it always like that, or are you making a special effort? I've got to be honest with you. If you have probably got to be the most woke fan that we've ever come across, because I think you'll find there's a lot of laughter and a lot of smiles. And you know, when we picked a game to review, the first one was a 6-2 win to you. So maybe you need to get your head out the sand and stop being so woke. And maybe, you know, one day your team will be in the Premier League and you can have a joke about that as well. I don't know, Bubba Blue. You came in, we didn't invite you, but I don't think I've been insulting. I think we've been it has, as we say, been banter. But if you can't take banter, but then like I say, everybody's so woke these days. You know, you say something to somebody and you're bullying them. Just do one, mate. Just do one. Yeah, exactly, Craig. Exactly. Everything's tongue in cheek. Totally. But like I say, woke rules these days. Woke rules. Maybe we should call Birmingham Woke City. Just a thought. Asking for a friend. Right. It's been pleasure. Even though if a Bullabaloo guy hasn't enjoyed it, who cares? He's a Birmingham fan. We will, catch me on their channel at 9 o'clock when I will be able to take a bit of banter. Obviously, they can't, but I will take a bit of banter, and I would expect to get it. I tell you what, he's not going to be very happy if he's going to the match and all the Leicester fans start singing about Rooney and his old women prostitutes, will he? Did I say that out loud? Right, guys. Other than that, I'll see you at 9 o'clock tomorrow for the prediction show. Take care. Thanks for watching. And if you're tuning in or listening in via the podcast, thank you very much for doing that as well. This has been LTID TV. This has been the preview show. Take care, buddy. And we will see you soon. I've just got to find the right video to click to play out. Good night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. You better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network.
TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.